Welcome to the Psychic Pinup Podcast, the anything and everything spiritual podcast where we dive into hot topics, readings, viewer questions, and more. Thank you for tuning in. Now, sit back, relax, and let's dive right into it.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Anything and Everything Spiritual Podcast. My name is Linda, and I am also known as the Psychic Pinup. Today's episode is one that I've been sitting with for a while, and particularly over Christmas, New Year break. Let's face it, leading up towards the end of every year, we tend to lean towards burnout and we start questioning a number of things. This one's been sitting with me for a while because I feel it's to have this conversation. It's honest, mature, and it may even feel a little bit uncomfortable for some of you listening. However, I feel it's deeply necessary. And I'm going to say this, the title of this podcast says it all. Just because you're intuitive doesn't mean you are right. How many times do we hear people all the time, my intuition never lets me down. I know. I'm not here to dismiss any of that in any way whatsoever. And I know some of you may have even felt a reaction to that title when I said it straight away. Whether it be out of curiosity, defensiveness, agreement, or resistance. This is all actually part of the conversation that I will be having today on this podcast. Again, this episode is not about dismissing intuition. I've said that. It's not about questioning spiritual ability in any way. So please do not send me hate mail. And it's definitely not about shaming people who are intuitive, empathic, psychic, and spiritually aware. I'm not having a go at you. This episode is more about responsibility, discernment, and emotional maturity. Because intuition is actually very powerful. But without the grounding, self-awareness, and accountability, it can also be misinterpreted, projected, or even misused. So let's talk about it. Okay. Intuition is information, not authority. Let's say that again. Intuition is information, not authority. And let me explain that one. One of the biggest misunderstandings in spiritual spaces is the belief that intuition automatically equals truth. But in fact, intuition is information. It is data. But what you do with that information matters. Your intuition moves through your nervous system, your past experiences, your beliefs, your emotional state. which means intuition is never received in a vacuum. Being intuitive doesn't remove your humanness. It doesn't bypass bias either. And it doesn't make you immune to projection. Wisdom isn't about what you sense, it's about how you interpret it. Who's been to have a reading only to have your reader project their personal experiences or even their opinions through the information data they are receiving, and possibly even interpreting it another way? It's their ego. They have not left their ego at the door when they have started doing their reading. So let's talk about when intuition gets entangled with ego, because this is where things can get sticky. And again, I need to be quite clear here. Ego is not bad. It's protective. The ego is there to protect ourselves. But when intuition becomes infused with the ego, it can sound like, I just know. Spirit told me. I'm picking up that you're lying. All this without curiosity, without checking, without consent. Sometimes what's being read isn't intuition. Sometimes what's being read isn't actually intuition. It could be a trauma response, a pattern from the past, or even an unregulated nervous system. Now, this is where it's quite important to remember also. Intuition without humility becomes dangerous. True intuitive maturity includes the words, I could be wrong. I have even used those words a number of times when I do readings. I will quite openly say to my clients, I don't always get it right. I could be wrong. But this is what I am seeing, feeling, hearing, etc. I'm quite open about that. I never say I am 100% correct. No psychic, no medium, intuitive, whatever language you would like to use is 100% correct. I would like to now talk about projection and how it can be disguised as intuition. In my opinion, this is one of the most common and least acknowledged issues in spiritual spaces. Projection. Projection happens when your unhealed wounds speak louder than your intuition. Your fears shape your interpretations. Your expectations colour what you perceive. Okay, for example, feeling abandoned and interpreting distance as rejection. Another example, feeling insecure and reading judgment where there is none. Another example, feeling triggered. That seems to be a buzzword these days. I'm triggered. You have triggered me. Actually using a choice of language here and calling it a download. Difference here. Intuition asks for self-awareness. Projection avoids it. If your intuition consistently confirms your fears, it's time to pause. Hit the pause button. Back away. Take a break. Let's talk about discernment. This is a missing spiritual skill I find with a number of people these days in the industry. Discernment is actually the intuition's quiet partner. And it asks, is this mine? Is this now? Is this factual or is it emotional? And do I have enough information? This is a reminder for these very highly intuitive people out there. You still need discernment. You know, especially when reading situations that they are actually involved in. Interpreting behaviour without any context. And just making assumptions about other people's intentions. What discernment actually does is it keeps intuition clean. So without it, intuition becomes reactive instead of responsive. Remember that, reactive over responsive. This is where we come into the intuition ethics and the responsibilities that we have as readers. This is going to be the ethical layer to this conversation on this podcast. Remember, just because you sense something, it does not mean, 1, it needs to be said. 2, it needs to be shared. 3, it needs to be acted on. I could keep adding to that list, but I won't. Intuition doesn't give permission to cross boundaries. True spiritual maturity knows when to speak, when to stay silent, and when to seek clarification. Sometimes, just sometimes, the most intuitive response is restraint. In other words, say nothing. And this all comes from experience. It's not something that just happens magically overnight. It's something that we need to grow into. We need to grow into mature intuition. Mature intuition should look like curiosity instead of certainty, compassion instead of judgment, grounding instead of urgency. It understands that intuition evolves as you do. The more regulated your nervous system, the clearer your intuition. The more self-aware you are, the less you project. Growth is not about being right. It's about being responsible with what you sense. I can relate to that, particularly the more regulated your nervous system, the clearer your intuition. And that ties in with what I was speaking about last week, confidence and calm. When I'm in that state of calmness and my confidence is at the higher end, I find that my intuition is a lot clearer. I also find that when I'm doing my readings, the information comes through very quickly. Bang, 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 one after the other. I don't even give time for my sitter to say anything. I'm in a flow. You'll understand what I'm talking about as you practice. Okay. So just in wrapping up this episode, I hope I haven't ruffled too many feathers. Please don't send me any hate mail, but if you want to, I'll accept it. I'll own it. I own everything that I say on my podcasts. Just in reflection, let this be your reminder that intuition is a gift and an ability that we have. Remember that this is in no way a badge of superiority. And I know that some people do wear that badge. Remember, you do not need to be right to be intuitive, but you need to be aware. Aware of your wounds, aware of your biases, aware of your responsibility. So when intuition is paired with humility, it becomes wisdom. Thank you for being here for this conversation. If this episode stirred something, just sit with it gently. And if it resonates, feel free to share it with someone who values conscious, grounded spirituality. As I said, you can send me hate mail or you can send me letters of support. Either way, I'm open. I will be back soon with more real conversations around intuition, truth, and spiritual maturity. Until then, trust your intuition, but question your certainty. Have a good one. Bye.
You have been listening to Linda, the Psychic Pinup. Linda is a psychic medium based on the New South Wales south coast of Australia. You can connect with her via her website, thepsychicpinup.com.au, or join her on her weekly live feeds on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, all under the same name, The Psychic Pinup. Thanks for listening.